place, as well as Zach that has been sliding through a little bit more than before. But coming into this game, it's sad to say, but I think Samsung can kind of feel confident thinking we can probably do whatever we want and Ever is not going to be able to beat us.
That sign is just crying about Samsung. It's like, oh, Samsung. With a bunch of crying faces. So she's feeling the pain too. She knows that perhaps this team is not, well, not perhaps. This team is not performing up to their level. They're not performing like a second place team in the best region in the world, although that is debatable nowadays. But we'll see if they can pull it together and actually get the 2-0.
The way you worded that makes me think. You ever wonder if hieroglyphics, or some of the hieroglyphics, you just got trolled? Somebody was just memeing back in ancient Egypt, and then we take that as real information when it was just all of these jokes written on walls.
Oh, like we thought it was serious text about like history, but actually it's something crude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure some of it is. Like, it can't all be good or, you know, relevant. We still have Zach not banned here. Will that be the final ban for Ever8? I see Marong like confidently nodding his head, like, yeah, I could deal with Zach. I don't know. That's it's kind of a hard thing to deal with.
Yeah. Like, what else do you first pick? You always first pick the ultimate weapon.
So Zach goes over to Samsung, and it goes over to Haru.
Flubber gone wrong.
He looks so evil.
Does he?
Yeah. It's the eyes for me.
Your opinion of evil and cute are so...
What, you think he looks cute?
He just looks normal. Looks like a piece of Jell-O.
I mean the face. Looks looks pretty evil.
It looks childish evil.
I think it looks more evil than Thresh's face. Would you agree?
No. Thresh's skull and bones and fire.
Yeah.
And he kidnapped somebody's wife and put him in a lantern. This guy's just fat.
I'm just talking about the visuals, right? But either way, Xayah, Thresh is picked up for Ever8. They get their bottom lane, and it looks like perhaps Samsung will respond with their own. We'll see if they skip the support pick and go for something else here.
Now they have a lot more engaged than last time around.
They pick up the Tom Kench once again for Core JJ.
It's a good answer into the Thresh. We know he can always devour it, but it also means that Thresh can flay Zach out of his elastic slingshot, which is quite useful. But Zach did see some minor nerfs in 7.12. Oh, that is it. Never seen a player just be so cross-armed in that draft. Doesn't look like Samsung is particularly stoked today, but the Zach tweak to his Q means that the second leash is no longer 300 range. In fact, it is 200 now, so a minor no, but still an incredibly obnoxious ability.
She's hoping that today will be happy. Obviously, Haru is the translation of today in Korean. One of the translations.
So his name literally means today?
Yep. It's like today, this day, specifically.
Well, what other day would today be other than this day?
There's like the general today, and then there's the specific today. You know what I'm saying?
What?
I just look over at Crumbs, totally dumbfounded.
Back to the draft. Renekton gets removed. Gnar already, so unfortunately we don't get to see the debut of Gnar. So maybe on Sunday we'll get to cast that one, but so far back on the ban phase, not letting Cuvée get a hold of that one. And then Talia ban, oddly enough. I think that Crown has been receiving quite a bit of bans, and we might just see him revert to some comfort on their side. Maybe a Victor if they want to. They just need throw them.
How about Corki?
Just give them something that they're familiar with. It seems like the bottom lane has been the most consistent part of Samsung so far, and everybody else needs to get a bit of a pick-me-up in order to get back on board.
Oh! It's being blocked. You can't see who that is. It's a secret person. So is the other person. Okay, there. Thanks for coming down, guys, as always. I wanted to point out that Crown was really excited is one way to put it, about the ban towards Rek'Sai. It seems like he had that last-second idea, like, oh, Rek'Sai's still up, ban it. And the coach was like, yeah, go ahead, ban the Rek'Sai. So they really wanted to take that away from Malrang.
Yeah, so he's getting some comfort at least. They're going to give him the Karma most likely. And it's Karma mid. It's not the most thrilling champion. One ability. Oh, yes. Thank you. We have been saved.
It
Possibly.
could still be
the
Karma
mid, but we get to see Jarvan first. That means technically it's less time for Karma to be on the screen, and that makes me happy.
I mean, Galio's still available. I don't know if they need that much engage, but okay. It looks like the Syndra, so something a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, this is a nasty composition there for Samsung. Lots of damage. And if ever go with this split pusher, I'm not sure, like, what are they going to do with this? We've already seen that they don't know how to split push, so why are you going on to the same idea as before?
If Crumbs had it his way, he'd just ban Ever8 from split pushing ever again.
Well, yeah, like, just you need to sit down and, you know, have split pushing be introduced to your system like Clockwork Orange. Your eyes non-stop, just open 24/7 so you can see what's going on and what the fault is here. And okay, so Fiora's going to be the one, and she can dodge out of the slingshot well with her riposte, but it's Zac. It's a long-range champion to just account for that can always hinder your split pushing abilities. So last time it was an easy matchup, right? You only had to deal with Shen. Now it's Zac. Now it's Tahm Kench still. I'm just not sold on it.
They still haven't swapped.
No, that's not Fiora mid into
Yeah,
Syndra.
there's no way, but like, I think these guys, they're just...
Wait, are you kidding me? No.
It's because they go into the blind pick.
Right, yes, we're going into the blind pick.
They should still have to swap
That's
out.
not Fiora mid. That is not Fiora mid.
They can't give people all this false hope. Like, really?
It's Fiora top. It's not Corki. That is not...
That's not a thing.
Yeah, that's not a thing. Lucian top is a thing. This matchup would not be in the favor of Corki. Like, Jarvan would just... They could just camp 24/7.
Yeah.
But, wait a minute. Yeah, so we just got confirmed. It is Corki mid, even though they are loading into the game on our screen here. It's definitely Fiora top, so don't get Russell. Keep your jimmies in place. We're just remaking it. We'll be right there with you with the game, as we have been doing. And I think we might continue to do for a while. Sorry.
Yeah. Just going to have to load up that blind pick.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. It's our fault. It's Crumbs' fault. So, taking a look. Lots of pick and engage.
This composition allows them to take their destiny into their own hands. You have all members can look to start a fight, and
definitely like that
is often a solution for you to bounce back, to get inspired, to be proactive, which was the downfall of Samsung that time around. They literally were incredibly passive and just they played around whatever mistakes were, but they could have done a lot more on their own. And now the champions also allow them to do that, and I expect a completely different Samsung this time around. I think that with Haru coming into the lineup, he sees the woes that Ambition has been through, the morale of the team not being in the greatest spot after Rift Rivals, after this initial loss, the kind of struggling matches before they even went to Taiwan. So he's been waiting for the spotlight for a while, and this might be his opportunity. You know, take a note from Blank and maybe be considered as a starter at some point.
I mean, he was considered for quite a while in spring when we saw Ambition come out and Samsung was having similar problems. And then eventually they were like, okay, Haru's the new guy. And he was so awesome. Like, he came out to the Rift, he was extremely aggressive. He was playing, a lot of people compared him to a young Peanut who was just getting in the opponent's face, trying to invade. And he really invigorated the Samsung lineup. You know, I'm not going to do the play-by-play thing where it's like, oh, the young new talent comes in. It was just literally his play was a lot more aggressive and a fit kind of what Samsung was trying to do. So I would expect the same out of him coming in here. I was surprised that they didn't use him more for summer, but maybe after, you know, the lackluster performances and the really, really not so good performance out of Ambition in that last game, perhaps this is the moment for Haru to take back his spot in the jungler's seat. But guys, we're going to load up game number 2 for Samsung versus Ever8 right now.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Here we go. Game number 2. Samsung looking to send a message to everybody who was watching saying, what the hell is this? This doesn't look like Samsung.
30초 남았습니다.
Who sent that message?
I'm sure lots of people in Twitch chat, YouTube chat, Reddit chat sent the message that they were confused about Samsung's play today, why they weren't showing up like the Samsung they know.
I don't know.
The second place Samsung.
Samsung is, I need to see more to be convinced of them this split.
미니언들이 생성되었습니다.
And definitely need to see a lot more out of Ever this time around. Maybe the Kassadin is a mental block and they struggle to execute it with Septed being the split pusher, but this time it's really obvious. It's Fiora. You're not team fighting with Fiora into this crazy tank death ball lineup. You absolutely have no business doing so. So split pushing is the name of the game, and so is a 4-on-4 level 1.
Okay, let's see if they can steal any of these Raptors. So far, 1 goes over. That's actually 3. 4 in total going over to Ever8. And
These are our chickens.
already not a good start for Samsung. Good play from Ever8 to come in as 4 and really just get that. They didn't even have any wards down. They just knew that Samsung was going to start there.
Yeah, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. And in the end, Haru still gets the lead in the jungle. He's still ahead. So it shot Ever in the foot. Already off to a not so spectacular start, as now Gragas is moving on to the second camp, whereas Haru is about to finish his, I guess, second and a half.
Yep, definitely going to have his
Just remember, he got a
jungle
leash.
delayed.
Like, he got a leash, whereas the bottom lane from Ever had to go straight to the lane, and that's what made the difference here.
He's also able to smite away the big Raptor, which is a nice boost in gold as well. And nice ping there from, I assume that was Ever, to say exactly where Haru is on the map right now at that blue buff.
But Ever have to know, or Samsung have to know that Malrang is slow in his clear. You know that if Gragas jungles solo, he's going to take a lot of time. He needs level 3 for him to really start getting things going with the cooldowns. And as he... Oh, no.
Not the cannon.
Oh, my God. Just use an ability on that. Oh, cannon minion goes out, but the wave's about to crash on the side of Samsung. But back on the Gragas point, you know that Samsung struggles to jungle early on, and this is a wise move from Samsung. They didn't get to see the red buff, so they're not going to be able to go for a steal or deny it. So they don't have control of mid lane, and Corki would be able to collapse. But it does slow down Malrang a little bit, as he has to de-aggro the red buff and go back around it.
Seeing the bottom lane being pushed in, actually already a nice lead here for the Xayah. Up about 7 creeps already.
So I think we have some time before any action happens. So let's go back on that game 1 and talk about a topic
Do you really
that...
want to?
Well, there's a topic there that's interesting to pretty much any competition, and League in particular, where you have your winner, your loser, but so often it's, if somebody wins, you can choose to look at it as, okay, they played really well and found a way to win, or the opposing team played really poorly and in a way lost. So, what's your take on the winning team having kind of the game gifted to them, whereas the losing team, right, a throw versus just like a great win? What's your take on that one? Because I got some pretty strong opinions on that one. That one agrees.
You're asking me if I think that Ever8 threw the game or not?
No, not just that one in particular. I'm talking in general. Not that one. That you can use that game as a frame of reference, but
You mean in general, is that what happens?
In general.
Between...
No, like just give me your opinion on it.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking is the problem. Like, do you mean... Like,
when a team wins, is it because the other team threw? Like, just give me a conversation on that line, on that frame.
No, usually it's the better team that will take the win. I think it's pretty rare to have a team be very far ahead and do that. But let's hold the phone for just a second. Let's see if they can land this. They actually miss as Ruler does get devoured here, and everything's fine.
That was good synergy there.
Yeah.
You get in front to block whatever's coming out, and then you get devoured in the end, kind of like the way that Thresh Kalista play.
So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, Crumbs. It seems like you have some strong thoughts.
Well, it's like in League, it's a lot of the times it's obvious to track the moves that a team can make that amount for a victory. And those moves, a lot of the time, are under the radar. It doesn't become that obvious. A good rotation, good vision. Being proactivity for me is the biggest factor in determining if a team threw or won. If they put that win in their hands, I don't think much is going to happen here yet. So being proactive is, to me, the biggest factor between determining if a team threw or if a team lost. So take, say, MVP versus Afrika, where MVP had a huge lead and they ended up losing. It came at the hands of one team literally giving it away because the other one had no instances of even proactively looking to punish the mistakes of the other. So proactively putting yourself in a position to look for something means having defensive vision that is looking for a pick, having an attempt at a pick, looking for opportunities that the other team can give you. It's not a victory with an iron fist most of the time. You always have opportunities. And so when we look at, say, last game, it really felt like the lack of proactivity from Samsung was what lets me come to the conclusion that it was Ever just throwing out the game. There were no proactive moves from Samsung for most of that game. Maybe once or twice off the mistakes that Ever initially started.
Yeah.
That's why I think that that proactivity is the ultimate factor in determining a throw versus a hard-fought comeback.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. I mean, you were talking about the different plays they could have made with the Shen in the bottom lane, you know, try to be proactive around the lane that's winning instead of just giving up, essentially, in the lane that you're losing and, you know, just letting it happen. And that's why we were saying that Haru coming in is really great because it allows Samsung to have confidence in their jungler and be proactive as a team. He just kind of allows that to happen. Now, he hasn't really gone for a gank just yet. He's still just farming as much as possible.
Yeah, think of it in terms of like football, right? If a team is constantly, if your linebackers are constantly forcing the quarterback to have some missed throws and maybe you get an interception there that you're like, okay, it got forced. But if he's just throwing bad, I think he's okay. If he's just throwing bad passes and it gets intercepted 24/7, you're like, all right, he's just bad. He just threw it. There was no pressure that made these errors happen. And that's where the proactivity also falls in line with determining a throw.
Yeah, I think that does kind of explain itself there. I think you did some justice to the topic.
Thank you. I feel like a lawyer.
You stated your case, exactly what you were going to discuss this evening. And,
yes. Yes, Your Honor. And I find Samsung and Ever guilty.
Poor Ever, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't trying to be super nice to them. I was just saying, like, this team, they have a lot of work to do in terms of, you know, you see games like this and it's really obvious that they don't know where their advantages lie. Or even if they do know, the communication is not there, rather, to allow them to do it well. So it's definitely frustrating to watch.
But also, like, a thing about League is that you never reset. In no aspect of a game do you get a reset. If you're behind, you stay behind and you don't get a chance to come back. If you're in the sport, bam, all right, you get a new ball, you get a new play. And you can forget about what happened in the past as it no longer applies to this play. But in League, that's not the case. Oh, I think he's dead.
We got a play here. There is a Zac inside of that. Tom Ken says, should be first blood going over to Haru this time. And finally, we get some action in this game.
Plus 421 gold going over to the Zac. And that's a great champion for you to start getting some nice items in a season. We'll get tanky. But, so in League, you don't get a reset, right? And that also applies in practice. So I talked about it earlier, whereas you start your practice and think of yourself as Ever. You're one of the weakest teams in the league. Realistically, you're practicing against challenger teams and against LCK teams, but for the most part, you get most of your results from practicing against LCK teams. And if you play how you play on stage, as you play on your practice, you're getting your ass whooped most of the time. Which means that you never get the chance to practice closing out a game. You only get to visibly see how it's done. You never get to put it into place. And so it's so difficult for you to learn. We need to get first past the level 1, first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, all right, 20 minutes, all right, now we have to consider dragons. Now we add barons to the playbook. Now we add all these other things. And you know, 1 year goes by and you haven't even gotten to 40 minutes in the game as to what you should do. And so you have situations of a 50-minute game that are so on the nice edge because nobody's truly that experienced in those situations. And that's one of the biggest arguments for wanting to have something like a full-on sandbox mode where you can replicate those moments and have you practice those scenarios where, okay, let's start the game, no turrets out on the map, only base turrets, everybody full items, go. And that gives you a great amount of practice. Whereas if you want that crazy late game practice, how to close out a game in that situation, you need to have been a veteran. You need to be incredibly intelligent. And most of the time, you got to wing it.
It's almost like they're trying to say the guys with experience are the ones that are just going to get it. There's no way to, you know, whereas in traditional sports, it's like, okay, we can go out on the field. It's, you know, 30 seconds to go. You've got one play to make. Go and try and do it, you know? Whereas in League, it's definitely a little bit harder to replicate those situations. But if we can talk about this game so far, I mean, there's only been 1 kill, but across the board, it looks pretty good for Samsung still. You can see just how aggressive the Varus and Tom Kench in the bot lane can get against this duo. The hooks have not been landing. Also in the top lane, that Fiora having a little bit of trouble against the Jarvan. So far it's been going decently even, but a small lead for Kive.
Comes a dive attempt, but there's still ultimate on Duel as well as Lantern, and Gragas is waiting on the wings. They might be thinking about killing Crown here.
Okay, they're going to get it. The immediate cleanse comes through. Can't really land anything, but they will open up this first blood turret in the bottom lane. There's not much that Ever8 can do to respond to this.
Anytime that Samsung choose to group, it's an advantage for them. They know Ever's team fighting capabilities are not going to be there. Thresh can be close to useless here, as Tam Kench's Devour will mitigate so much. And there it is. Even the blue buff steal will easily go the way of Samsung, as now Crown gets to deny that one, and there will spawn as well. So now more mid lane advantages. And that's all that Samsung have to do. They never really have to take a fight, but it's about being proactive here. They understand, all right, we can go group here and get ourselves a nice tower. Easy. All right, go for it. And now they can continue to do this, and this is going to be their game plan for the rest of the game. Group up, force Ever to fight you in a 5v5, and it's going to be up to Malrang and Malrang alone to try to get an engage in that situation. But in their eyes, they shouldn't even be thinking about taking a 5v5. They need to get Fiora ahead and quickly so that she can start putting some pressure on the map, so that they have one lane that can start giving some advantages over it, releasing some of the pressure that Samsung puts on the map, and give some breathing room towards Ever.
Yeah, and so far they've just been throwing Keen up in the top lane, but it looks like they want to set up an Abyssal Voyage gank once again. I mean, this is looking like basically the same thing. We'll see if they can get an Abyssal Voyage coming on in. Kive, he does miss the knock-up. Keen is going to flash away, but the Taint of Corruption is actually reposted. And Keen, with a nice set of mechanics, does get out of there alive.
Nice use of that, but I got to question the decision to actually go in at that time. There was nobody in the bottom side of the map. Your own duo lane is going top. You see the Zac being in that way, so I can kind of see why he went in, but I can also imagine if you want to truly play it safe, you don't even risk that.
Ruler eating a bit of damage. Nice trades at the end of it all, actually. Samsung's duo gets the better end of that.
Samsung got a big enough lead in the bottom lane by themselves to just have a couple of people come in there and solidify that first brick, and now they're going to do the same thing again. That chunking onto Duel has to force the rest of Ever to respond to this lane, just to not give up another tower, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, Scepted, he's backing right now. Crown was making his way up, but then once he saw that essentially Ever8 is giving it away, they're like, okay, I guess we'll just take it. We don't even have to dive if you guys really want.
Listen, a game can be a perfect game on 0-0. Kills do not matter.
Well, what if I'm 4-0 in solo queue? and my team sucks. Do the kills matter then?
Not really. It's all about objectives. It's all about pressure.
I'm just making fun of those guys. And look, a big stun. He does have the package up here. He is going to use it after the ult. Pretty smart to do that. Just going to force that ult.
Kind of surprised that the flag and drag was actually missed.
So far, it's just Samsung domination. As you said, I mean, only 1 kill so far, but all the objectives going their way. There's only like a tiny bit of turret damage. They're going to go for this right away because there's no response from Ever8.
Yeah. As long as they see Gragas, they know they're never going to lose a fight. Gragas is the only factor in them getting wiped here. Tam Kench will always mitigate Thresh. There's no engage between Corki and Xayah, and now they can just pull the trigger onto Keen, who has no flash.
Yeah, Crown coming in with this alone is just going to mean that Keen should go down here. He has no flash. He is making it really hard. Nice riposte, but the Devour in the end will net them the kill.
Oh, going for the kill steal there on Tam Kench, not giving it to Syndra Jarvan. Bloodthirsty support. I guess he does want to eat everything, so holding true to the lore out of all things.
That's good. We all know that's very important in these competitive games.
Hey, sometimes it helps to put yourself in the shoes of the champion that you're playing.
Ooh, that was close, but actually the Flake coming in, knocking some heads together. Featherstorm, can they lock him up? Kidnap will not pick up anyone. PV kind of awkwardly coming in from the side, but no one will die.
Summoners on duel taken out, as well as the Featherstorm, means that they can revisit that lane, and Haru still has flash, so when that ultimate comes back, they can punish that dual lane once more. And kind of fun to say the dual lane, right? Because duel's in the lane as well.
Yeah. I wonder how he says it. We've had some fun over here on the SPO broadcast, asking the players how they say their names and then trying to do it ourselves, but then eventually giving it up.
I think he's just a rabid Yu-Gi-Oh player that just wants to duel all the time.
If the Korean is Romanized that way, it should be de.
Oh, please cast that way.
I'll spare you guys, but
in
the bottom lane. Dill is really good on the Xayah. He's such a good player. Yeah, realistically, it's decently close, but it sounds really weird in English. So we'll let that one fly.
Samsung ought to be looking to fly themselves there by taking this Cloud Dragon. It's ready and available.
Going in, he has exhaust here, but Malrang coming on in. He can't save his buddy, and now with the Abyssal Voyage, it was just Core JJ, and Ella is nearby, but Septed trying to go 1v1 with the Jarvan, not going to work out.
I'm curious as to how that fight broke out in the first place. We didn't get a glimpse as to how those two met. Normally, Corki just farms from a distance, and maybe it was Cuvée surrounding Corki as Crown surrounds Keen right now. Oh, that's a lot of damage mitigated.
Keen has dodged a lot. He's trying to get onto Crown, and the Grand Challenge comes through. Now Haru's on the run. He certainly doesn't have enough to do this here. Going to try to knock some heads together, and Keen will give up as Cordaday makes his way down.
Finally, something for Ever to hold on to. It's Keen on the side lane, exactly who you want it to be. Gets that kill, burns his flash for it, but not a big deal. Gold going his way is the only thing that's going to keep Ever in this game. He's going to have to be the guy to carry this team, and it's such a difficult position to be placed in. You just started last week of the LCK, barring the one before Rift Rivals, but he was replacing Helper, who had been the starter 24/7. He debuts on the Lucian game, and now it's like, hey, try to save this team, and this is how you do it.
This guy certainly knows how to I almost said
riposte ultimate.
Well, he dodged both of the orbs. Like the first one he sidestepped, but then he used his dash for the second one, and the second the ult comes out, he riposted. It's pretty simple, but good mechanics out of Keen. Gotta hand that to him.
It's how they say, right? When you're truly a master at something, you just make it look easy, effortless, and that's what it looked like. It didn't look flashy, it just looked easy for him.
Honestly, I'd have to fault Crown for trying to go 1v1. He did have some teammates nearby, but he engaged by himself first and got a little bit too close to that big fencing, what do they call that, a sword? A spear?
Fiora?
Yeah. What does she wield?
A sword.
Sword? Okay.
What do you? It's what? It's a sword. What are you?
I thought it was like the
Wait.
fencing thing, you know, that they poke you with.
I think that's also called a sword.
Okay, fencing sword. I thought maybe it was a spear. One of our fellow casters
You've
out
been
here,
watching
Wolf.
some 2017 History Channel.
Spear.
It's like the new MTV except for history, and it's so sad.
Kane actually isn't okay to fight 1v1 versus the Jarvan right now. It doesn't look like they have full vision on exactly where everybody is as well. So just Keen taking the safe play. And Samsung is quite far ahead, more than 5,000 gold, as they do what the best teams do on blue side with this kind of composition. Just group up, take out the vision. Kive smartly is going to disengage at this point.
Yeah, Samsung is playing this game expertly, understanding pressure, and it becomes a bit of a blown cast, but they can just tank this turret if they desire, and that's exactly what they're going to do. So this is such a different Samsung to what we've been used to seeing so far.
Let me ask you something. Let's see if you have some insight onto this. Why do you feel like, especially in summer, we've had so... Okay, hold that thought. Okay, never mind. Don't hold that thought. Why do you feel like we've had so many teams drop the ball in game 1 and then come back 2 games in a row? Because it wasn't like this in spring. I don't remember any other season that I watched where it was like this. It just seems like so many teams are getting clocked down, just like Ella is in game number 1. And a bit of a 1v1 here, trying to get that grand challenge. Does miss it, as both these players are extremely low. Kive still has a bit of mana, though. He's going to trade it back. But now we have some rest. Crumbs, I'll let you answer my question.
There are factors in this game that we can't account for, that as casters, as analysts, when we look at the game, it's impossible for us to know, and the only insight we get is from players when they stream, when they do interviews, and when they're vocal. And say a team like Africa, we only got a glimpse into their inconsistencies when they did an interview, when Spirit did an interview where it's like, yeah, we actually just get cocky or complacent after game 1, and those are elements that you always have to account for. A team's performance isn't just, oh, they played bad. Maybe one was sick. Maybe they just get cocky after a game 1, or the coach drops the ball plan after game 2. There's an infinite amount of factors that we as spectators are unaware of, and I think that when it comes down to game 1 losses or game 1 inconsistencies in this split, that has to be the case for me, from my book, because when you view it analytically, it's just something that it's intangible in the sense of how do the statistics and the way that these teams are playing change. It's something deeper that we only can speculate about.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see, again, like, even though Samsung won game number 1, everybody was zero smiles, all seriousness. They know that they kind of messed up in a sense.
Well, remember they also just got back from Taiwan, right? So maybe
That's true.
they're tired from the plane.
Yeah.
Maybe the airplane food was awful. They didn't like the food overseas. So there's a lot of factors that come into play. Say Longzhu, for example, that game 1, they might have dropped the ball. They had different champions that...
Oh boy,
oh, the ward!
The ward is perfect, and he can't get into that lantern. What a block.
Oh, what a beautiful thing to see. The ward drops on his dome.
Yeah. Those are the kind of small micro plays that I hope don't get removed from the game.
No, they should never do that.
Because it's so cool to see, and it's really hard to pull off.
It takes serious skill.
Yeah. Let's see more of them. Let's add some more little ones like that into the game. And if Ever8, if they want to try to contest this, they're going to be eating a giant Jarvan spear to the face. Malrang going to walk right into it and does not get the knockup, but it looks like he's given up as he flashes away. They will hand over this Baron to Samsung.
Yeah, he's scared of the combo that Samsung was looking for between the Scat of the Week as well as the Unleashed Power. Malrang would have been deleted right away, so the chance of a steal while alluring was likely not there, at least not from that angle. And now Samsung just sitting comfortably at a 8,000 gold lead. This has been a great game by them so far. Sure, the action hasn't been there in the kills, but they've been making the rotations, they've been going for the right moves, and here Ruler once again going for the engage, and that control ward just perfect, right as he flashes too. You could not get a better timing than that. And
yeah.
Just, this guy's Varus has been on point for so long.
Yeah, Ruler really making this pick kind of, I wouldn't say a ban just yet, but perhaps a counter pick at this point.
Well, a lot of teams actually kind of abandoned the Varus train. They're like, no, we want to go with the Kog'Maw, the Twitches, the Caitlyn. Caitlyn started getting banned, then Kalista, and they left the Varus train. But Ruler is one of the surviving Varuses, and he's showing us why it should have never been abandoned in the first place. And it's a treat to see somebody be so specific to these champions and take action into their own hands, because as an AD carry, so often you rely on your setup, on your Zac, on your Syndra to get the party started. But you're Varus, you just say, no, I want to get a kill, let's go right now.
After the Baron here, Samsung, they really haven't met any kind of resistance. I mean, it looks like old Jin from Ever8, where they kind of just, they get behind and they just, they lie down and they're just like, okay.
Plot twist, Ever is actually a hologram now. They're not really doing anything.
Yeah. They're trying to have some sort of, you know, play in this game, but it's not really working.
They're 10,000 gold down. They've got no answer. They picked the split pushing comp. This is why I was like, why would you even pick Fiora? You're not going to pull this off. And it's exactly what happened. So now the only answer is Keen, but it's far too late. Samsung has been playing the macro game expertly, and Ever with no responses or even an attempt to do anything, then they can just have their way here. And now 10,000 gold up and 27 minutes in. This one's looking definitely done. I think that I put more faith in Samsung to close out a game than Ever.
Don't speak too fast.
No. I think this one, from the way that they have been playing, avoiding action, unnecessary action, is a sign that they're definitely taking this game much more seriously.
They also have a Tom Kent to save them if anyone wants to jump in. Whereas the Thresh in the last game for Ever8 wasn't really doing the job as a disengager. And also they don't have a fed mid laner who's going to jump in behind the turret. So that definitely does help him. And we have this gigantic push up in top. Kive's basically all alone. The rest of them pushing down mid as Samsung. They want to end this game fast and go back home and do a bit more practicing, because they certainly do have a lot of practicing to do.
Well, if they play like this, not a whole lot, because this is great. This is just stellar league.
Well, we're going to see the hook here on Taharu, and one last stand. Taharu actually does get quite low, but his passive still hasn't been popped. He's still there in the back alive. Crown is going to get rooted down here, but here's Cuve going 1v5. Haru jumping in. The corrupted arrow coming in. Not sure what the name of that is. Forgot about it. Chain of Corruption, there it is. And it was looking to Link, but in the end, they do get all the inhibitors, and that's really what is important. Samsung, even though they do lose Haru, is going to have a massive lead in this game.
Cuve did not have his teleport there to try to stall out Haru's life and maybe get a comeback, but yeah, 3 inhibitors. All they have to do is now just walk straight down the mid lane and just notice how they play differently than whatever was closing out. They understand, okay, you got a split pusher that's getting an advantage. We'll group on one side, force them to respawn, and then we'll rotate when the opportunity is prime, and we don't have to look for a fight unless it's absolutely certain that we'll win it in. With the position that they started off, sure, the Zac mechanics keep getting outplayed, but the Gragas is just another party cast. Like, there is no sense with that ultimate, and these engages are a bit unnecessary from Samsung, but they already have the inhibitor guaranteed. So they can do this even if they lose a member. Hell, even if they lost multiple members on that one, there are no major objectives for Ever to get. Only a Cloud Dragon, which would be the unfortunate dragon, but
well, they have 3 now.
There's no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
That's
matter
cool.
These dragons at this point. They just walk straight down the mid lane or bottom, the lane of their liking, and just wait for waves and choose a fight. They can also fight. It's an 11,000 gold lead, so it's up to them how they want to close it.
Chain of Corruption onto Corki, and there's no saving him. Good night, goodbye, Septed, and good night to Ever8 as well. They're trying their hardest, but with all the super minions pushing in and Samsung's massive gold lead, they're looking to take 2 games tonight. However hard it was to win that game number 1. They're going to get another last kill onto the Xayah and take out the Nexus. That's going to do it. The 2-0 to Samsung Galaxy. 2
kills and the turret to the side of Ever, but this was practically a perfect game from Samsung. This was beautiful to see, and exactly what we needed to see from them in game 1. And maybe it was Haru and Ambition that possibly was struggling with the team. We don't know. It could be the game 1 jitters after coming back, but this is the Samsung that we wanted to see. And sure, they take out the 9th place team, but in the fashion that they did is always an indication of a team that knows what they're doing. And there's Cube just saying, yep, that was easy. We knew how to do this. Why didn't we do this in game 1? And finally, the Samsung that we've all wanted to see shows up.
Yeah, they are the victors tonight. This is the second time they've had trouble against Ever8. Perhaps, as you mentioned, perhaps it's a mindset thing. They're feeling like, oh, these guys are easy. We can come in here and just kind of play lackadaisical, just go in and do our thing. But just like any other sport, just like any other game, you really need to perform on the day that you go in. And it's only more disappointment on the side of Ever8, as I think they go to 1-10 now after this with a -14 indicator score.
And it's hard. These losses just keep piling up and your morale goes lower and lower. And it takes so much to bounce back from these situations. And often teams will look toward different players. Just shake up the roster, shake up the staff, shake up something. And oftentimes that doesn't end up being the right answer. They're trying out Keen, they tried out Comeback and Ella, and it just has not resulted. And similar to the criticism against MVP and doing multiple champions, it seems that Ever might just have a better time sticking to a couple of set members and truly fixing the issues at the core, which right now are quite many.
Yeah, it's pretty much everything. I mean, they are coming up from the Challenge League, so it does make sense that they're having a bit of trouble so far in their first go of it in the end. And Pive just ignoring that cast, saying, hey, I'm a Jarvan.
Back to the lane, back to farming. This is the one good player on the side of Ever. Dodges out the 2 Qs and then turns for the kill, riposts the ultimate as well. And that's done curiously from Crown. Actually put him out of range for the elastic slingshot to connect. So a bit of a anti-synergy there, but in the end, only 1 kill going over to the Fiora was not a big deal. And look at the ward. Look at this
ward. Oh, the timing.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's just beautiful.
Pristine timing there. And this is the last fight where Samsung actually do lose the fight technically, but they get the inhibitor, which is really what matters. And from there, it was 3 inhibitors down. They could easily just push it in and win the game.
Yeah, they knew they would be in a favorable position every time that they took a 5v5. So going in here, it's like, okay, well, we'll just take the 5v5. We might miss a lot of abilities, but we're so far ahead. Not a big deal. And 11-1 in power as all the dragons. The only 2 kills, but this could be a qualification for a perfect game with an asterisk by its side, because I was thoroughly impressed by the macro game that Samsung turned on, and they just need to remember to play this way when they tackle a stronger opposition.
Yeah, you gotta keep it consistent, guys. And you can see that the Syndra didn't really do much in the game. Just had a little bit of damage.
Oh, but it's not a damage game, right? The kills were not it was all a macro game. We could, again, 0-0-0, and it still would have been an impressive game.
So, just saying that Crown didn't really have a chance to shine in game number 2, but I'm sure he will in other times. But guys, we're going to jump straight to the interview. I'll hand it to Ji-sun.
So here we have Ruler for the interview. Congratulations. You always do this gesture in the gaming booth. Is it hot in there? Yeah, it's summer and it's really hot. But it doesn't really damage my health. So you turned the game around in the game 1. So yeah, I'm not really satisfied with the first game. But in the end, in the game 2, we had a really nice victory, so I'm feeling better now. So what kind of feedbacks did you guys have after the match? So we talked about our mistakes and we're trying to get more courage. Then who would you like to pick as MVP for the last game? I would like to pick Tom Kench, but I also think that I can be the MVP.
Well, let's take a look who was the MVP of game number 2. From Samsung, it was CoreJJ on the Tom Kench.
Yeah, he had a great game. Rotations, and there are other aspects to the MVP play, the communication. that was so apparent this time around for Samsung. And a support always spearheads communication. You never hear of a support that doesn't talk, so deservedly so. Does Core JJ get another MVP win? Actually, no, I think that's his first. Was it a 200 earlier? Well, he gets it this time.
So it's Core JJ. So how do you feel? So I feel really relieved for having 2-0 victory. And I also feel really happy about getting my first MVP points. So recently, I saw a lot of supporters getting MVP points, so I thought I can get one in one day. I was really amazed by putting a ward on the Thresh Lantern. Whose ward was it? And Ruler said it was his. So I think the cooperation of the bottom lane is really awesome. I think Ruler is really nice, so it's really easy to have a conversation with him, so that really helped a lot for our cooperation. Well, I was kind of far compared to Ruler, so he said he can handle it by himself, and he made it. Then what do you think about Core JJ as a AD carry? He helps him a lot with giving feedbacks, and also outside of game, he also gives him a lot of help and care, so I think it's a really nice buddy. What kind of feedback do you want to give to Ruler? I think he made a lot of improvements on his mistakes, so I think he did really well. So what kind of tips and know-hows of your making the game turning around? I think it's a matter of cooperation. So we kind of step back. We trying to give our objects unless we're not losing. So we trying to keep patience and wait till we grow enough. And last message for your fans. Thank you for the love and support. And this was the end of the interview. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Ji-sun, for that translation. And that will be the last game of the night. I hope that perhaps Ruler can have a personal fan so that he can stop being so hot. But let's take a look at the final results here. Samsung still up at the top in second place, 9-2, and Ever8 only more losses to them.
Yeah, Ever8. But Samsung finally, or maybe Haru, is the answer to revitalize his team. So I'm excited to see what comes in their next matches, which, by the way, Thursday, they're playing up against SKT, so they've got a tall order to step up to, and yeah, I'm going to be so hyped to see that match, especially whether they start Ambition or Haru, it doesn't matter. We saw how they played today, and I got to say, that was actually a very heartwarming interview for me, hearing when you get a dual lane talking to each other about how their cooperation, where when you look at Samsung play, the dual lane is really that shining grace for them right now, and having that insight, okay, you know what, they're friendly to each other, that makes it easy. Remember that Core JJ was also an AD carry, so he can offer some valuable advice to Ruler, and it's always nice to see when you have those two laners that are not only in game together all the time, but also outside of it, and getting a glimpse of what their daily interactions are like.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to hear from those guys for sure. I think going into the game against SKT, they have a lot of thinking to do. They don't have too much time, a couple of days, but we've seen Samsung have a lot of success against SKT over the course of this entire year, but we have to see them step up this time. I think SKT is really in the driver's seat for this one, even though both of these teams kind of had a rough time at Rift Rivals. I think really here in LCK, they're going to put in a lot more preparation for that game, and I would definitely give that to SKT.
Well, they could be coming off of some sort of jitters as well. Maybe the win streak of Blank and Untara fails. Who knows? There's so much excitement on those matches. Every time top teams play each other, you know you get hyped.
Yeah. Hoping to see some more of Blank. I think he'll do quite well, but we'll see what lineups they do put in. That's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.